Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be walking you through how we can better prepare for our trip to Japan by understanding and adapting to the cultural differences in communication style. However, before we get started, I think it is important that we consider Walmart's unsuccessful entry into Germany. By failing to understand and adapt to the cultural differences of the German market, Walmart was forced to exit, resulting in a $1.6 billion financial loss, a tarnished reputation in Europe, and legal and regulatory fines. With that being said, the goal of this presentation is to help Welltec's leadership team avoid similar missteps and effectively prepare for the upcoming meetings in Japan. Over the coming slides, we will take a look at how cultural norms influence communication styles in business. Then we will have a discussion on the nuances of Japan's communication preferences. And finally, we will take a look at how we can be proactive before we head abroad. So, why does culture and communication even matter? In business, communication is more than language. It is tone, hierarchy, expectations, and even silence. What feels polite and efficient in one culture may come off as rude or confusing in another. If we want to build trust and effectively negotiate in Japan, we can't just rely on our usual habits. We must acknowledge the varying cultural dimensions such as high context versus low context, collectivism versus individualism, and consensus building versus centralized decision making. Written communication. In Japanese writing, values subtlety and formality, as well as a concept known as shiteki shiko, or visual thinking. While Americans typically use direct, concise language, Japanese business writing often uses indirect phrasing, respectful wording, and vibrant visuals to communicate meaning. So, how do we bridge the gap? We should aim to incorporate more visual storytelling in our written materials, use softened, direct language, and show respect through tone and formality. Verbal communication. Verbal communication in Japan is extremely high context. This means that most of the message is implied rather than spoken. It relies heavily on shared understanding, facial expressions, and even silence. To adapt, we should embrace pauses as moments of thoughtful reflection, tune into verbal and nonverbal cues, and avoid being too blunt or confrontational in conversation. Meetings and decision making in Japan. Meetings in Japan prioritize harmony and group consensus. The decision making process can be slower because it often involves careful consideration and input from all team members, a collective, risk-averse approach. We can align with this by encouraging team building, including more participants in the decision-making process, and showing a commitment to long-term relationship building. Adjusting to a new culture doesn't happen overnight. However, Rice University says we can prepare by doing our own research, watching Japanese media with subtitles, and engaging in everyday interactions while we're there. The more familiar we become, the better we'll connect, and this can make all the difference. By understanding and respecting how culture shapes communication in Japan, we can show up as better partners, avoid missteps, and build strong relationships that lead to success. Thank you for your time.